Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Next Level Teaching. I'm your host, Jeremy Anderson, here with my super dope co-host with the mostest, my co-hostess with the mostest, Miss Tori Rodriguez.
I love this. Next Level Teaching. Like, are we
chopping it up, chop the screw. You know what I'm saying? What's up, T-Rod? You good?
Oh my gosh, I'm dying right now with you.
It's gonna be good.
It's gonna be a great day, y'all.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kia Henley's here with us. She goes way back with Jay, and I'm super excited to hear some of the dirt, maybe.
Yeah, I got some juice.
No, I'm talking about her talking about your dirt.
Okay,
that's what I'm really ready for.
Focused. It's not about me today.
But she and I have already, I feel like, clicked a little bit, and I'm loving this so much. But before we really hop into things, Jeremy, why don't you let everyone know who we are here?
Look, y'all know what we do here. We are passionate about students and teachers and education, and we want you to laugh, learn, and live your best life. So you're going to laugh throughout this podcast. You're going to learn something new, and we want you to take it and apply it so you can live your best life right here. We are been privileged to bring together some of the most amazing and progressive minds in education that's on our podcast. And our guest today, we've got something special in store for you. You're going to learn a lot. We're going to have a good time.
It's going to be so good.
Yeah. Now, before you tell us about Kia and do the bio, we're going to ask you all to do us a favor, right? As you're listening to this podcast and you feeling it, take a moment, hit the pause button and give us a comment, right? Leave us a review. Let us know how you feeling. You know what I'm saying? Let us know you picking up what we putting down. And we don't just want any review, right?
5 stars.
5 stars. 5 stars. You know what I'm saying? Show us some love. Let us know. This is This is something we do for you. You know what I'm saying? We put a lot of work into this. Just let us know you're receiving it. Yep.
All right, so Miss Kia Henley has been in education for 15 years. Surely doesn't look like it. Here we go, guys. Bless her. She's taught kindergarten, 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Come on.
IRR.
Wow.
She's currently an elementary school administrator, and she just made the jump to a new district. So I'm excited to hear about how that change has been for you, especially in this very difficult COVID time. I also want to say God bless you for dealing with the little ones. You were telling me about how you do train them, though, with the pastel day, like no hug day.
No hugs on pastel day.
That's so funny.
And I'm like,
it's a part of our first 20 days.
I love that, because that's my thing with little ones. I'm like, first off, I want to be able to have a real conversation.
Right.
And second off, I don't do bodily fluids.
I understand.
That's funny.
I understand.
Kia!
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Man, I love this chick, man. We go back 20 years, Oakwood College, now university campus. Yeah, I was like, who's this chick over here? You know what I'm saying? With that St. Thomas accent. You know what I'm saying? With the J's on. Oh, she stay fly. You think this song, she been fly. You know what I'm saying?
Y'all, if you are listening to the podcast and you're not on YouTube watching, I'm going to need you to go over to our YouTube. This girl is dressed from head to toe, literally.
We can't get
head
the shoes
to toe.
in the camera,
Like, the
but
shoes
they
are
fire.
so good.
Yeah.
And she walked in and I was like,
like,
dang, she outshining me. Hold on, please. Hold, please.
Hey, and you know what's crazy? It's like every time I look up her Instagram, either you're in the school loving on some kids, or you're on the jet, you're on the plane, you're sitting courtside before the pandemic at a basketball game. You're serious about that self-care.
Self-care is important.
We got to talk about that.
Absolutely.
It's like every time I look up, I'm like, she's in another island? I'm like, yes. Tracy was like, Kia must have like a lot of different properties and investments. Like, she living her best life.
You have to.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that. Welcome to the show.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You're going to teach me about that one.
Right. So, Kia, so when we were in school at Oakwood, I don't think it clicked that you were, we were just kind of all doing our thing.
Absolutely.
I don't think it clicked that you were going to be in education, right? Now, when I first moved to Atlanta, you were one of the first ones to invite me, you know what I'm saying, at your school to speak.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so that was pretty fun. That one video, Jonathan, didn't he videotape that for me? He was working for TNT.
Absolutely.
NBA on TNT.
Still is.
Yeah. Okay, nice.
He's in the bubble.
He did that video. He's in the bubble. Sweet. I need to reach out to him.
Yeah.
And so, but you were one of the first schools to like bring me in and let me love on your kids.
Absolutely.
We had a good time.
We had an amazing time.
Yeah. And I've been to your school a few times.
Yeah. You sure have. Read Across America. You've come to every year since I've invited you. Yeah. Totally.
Absolutely. Yep. This is good. So yeah, this is going to be good. Now, when did you first know that you were called? Because here at Next Level Teaching, we don't feel this is a career or an occupation. This is a calling.
And you gotta be crazy.
Yeah.
Just a tad bit.
Just a little crazy.
Just a tad bit.
And called.
Absolutely.
Right.
I'd say I didn't necessarily know that I wanted to be a teacher. Initially I wanted to be a fashion designer, obviously, right? Like I was super into fashion, obsessed with Barbie dolls as a kid, right? And then that kind of fell off. And then I said to myself, well, maybe a pediatrician because I love kids, right? And then I realized that other people's bodily fluid, I can't do it. I'd pass out at the sight of blood, right? So that wasn't it. But my mom has been an educator all my life, grew up around teachers, but it took others to see in me the calling, right? I didn't necessarily know. So one summer, my mom was like, come to Vacation Bible School and I need you to help me teach a class. And I was like, I would rather shoot myself in the foot than to come to Vacation Bible School and teach kids, right? And so the first day I was like, okay, it's cool. I went and the kids were like kind of bored. The content was like kind of boring. So I had to put myself in it and say to them, okay, this is what the story's about, but how do I make it relevant for these kids that I'm teaching? And so after doing that for the first day, one of the directors came and she was like, you are really good at connecting with kids. And I was like, am I? She was like, yeah, the kids are excited when you're here. You made it relevant. You really dug in. You dug deep. Try to make them smile, bring them around. So I was just like, okay. And then I think that was the kind of the defining moment for me to maybe this might be a thing that I really like. Right. But I think what really brought me to teaching was my 11th grade trigonometry teacher. So I hated math as a kid, right? Yeah. You're a math teacher.
I did too.
Right. I didn't like math because I didn't think that.
I still hate math, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
So throw it out there.
Right. Pythagorean theorem. Say it with me.
That's where I'm going right there. We have a kindred spirit, Tori. We really do.
He hates the Pythagorean theorem.
Trigonometry. Mr. Ekpe, he was from Togo, South Africa, and he was like, I was like a straight A student. I got by with math because I worked really hard at it and had a tutor, but it didn't come natural to me. So he was just like, Kia, what do you really love? I was like, I love buying shoes. I like finding shoes, different types of shoes. He was like, math could be like shoes, okay? Let me teach you. And literally, he taught me the Pythagoras theorem concretely, representationally, and abstractly, and then I was able to see it. I was like, this makes sense to me. No other teacher in my whole years prior to 11th grade could teach math the way he could. And that's why I love Common Core, because it allows teachers to give various strategies to students instead of that one way. Because when we grew up, all of us, the reason why we hated math was because our teachers, especially we went to private school when we were little, right? Our teachers taught us that one way they knew how to do math, right? And if you didn't know how to do math that one way, you didn't get it, and that was it. It was their way or the highway. So that kind of led me to, why do all teachers teach like that?
Right.
Maybe they didn't have the professional learning to do better.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's what drew me into learning. He made math like buying shoes for me, and that's why I loved it. And I'm able to talk about why A equals B, A plus B equals C, the hypotenuse of a leg, because of him. Yeah. Because he was able to say concretely, this is what it looks like. Representationally, this is what it looks like. Abstractly, this is what it looks like. Yeah. And I learned to love math in 11th grade.
Right. That's rich.
Okay, so I want you to go there real quick with Common Core. Because let's be honest, people talk so much smack about Common Core, especially when it comes to math.
Yes.
And I have to sit here and explain every single time why it's actually a great thing.
It is.
And people, like parents, right? Like people our age hate it.
Yes.
Because Jeremy's laughing because he
I've
hates it.
got a funny story about it.
Tell you
Go ahead.
this. We learn because we learn differently.
Yes.
Right? So Common Core is amazing for me because every kid doesn't learn the same way.
Yes.
And if you're really a good teacher, differentiation is your best friend.
Yes.
Because you have no choice.
Right.
Because all kids can't fit into that round hole, right? There are some squares.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to break down the content for them to understand it. And with Common Core, I felt like if I had a teacher teaching Common Core in math when I was in elementary school, I would have loved math.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you would have taught me 5 different ways to get to the same answer as everybody else.
That's it.
But when I learned math, it was all about that one teacher teaching that one way, and if I didn't get it, that's it.
Oh, you're stuck.
If I didn't know PEMDAS, that was it.
Yeah.
If I didn't know my multiplication tables, that was it, right? How many times have all of you lost recess because you didn't know what 9 times 6 was?
Yeah.
Right.
Why did I need to know that?
Right.
My working memory wasn't working, right? And I couldn't hold on to 54 in my mind.
Right.
Yeah.
But that doesn't not get me to the same answer if I could do it an array.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what Common Core is.
So I was laughing when you all first started talking about Common Core, because in 2017, when we first dropped our Next Level Students curriculum, I had some advisors, and they were pro Common Core,
Yes.
right? And so we put together this first version of the curriculum. It's all over the place. And I work with a school district in Texas, right outside of San Antonio. And I'm sitting with the superintendent and the principal, and they're like, Jeremy, we love the curriculum. She was just like, but we can't purchase it. I said, why? She said, because we live in Texas. I said, what does that mean? She was like, it has Common Core. She was like, in Texas, their mindset is the government not going to tell us. She was like, our board will view this as Obamacare. And I was like, what? She says, Jeremy, I love it. Is it possible you could do it and just take off Common Core? I said, absolutely. Like, whatever it takes to get these babies the resources. But she was like, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But my board is going to give me such a hard time because it has those two words, Common Core. I said, man, I said, not only will we take Common Core off, but I'll put your district's color on the book.
Absolutely. Right. What color?
And that's why you see that purple version that we have. We customize it for that whole school district.
Absolutely.
And was like, whatever it takes. She was like, the content is rich.
Yes.
But she was just like, but that language. And that's when I realized how political
it's so
Common
controversial.
Core could be. And controversial,
Well, and I'll say the other thing that I really appreciate about it is if you have a kid that's coming from New Jersey.
Absolutely.
And they're coming down to me. I know that we're learning the same thing. Like, that's also the point of it, that it's common.
Yes.
Right.
So that no matter where that kid's coming from, I know that we're on the same-ish page. Because before Common Core, I had a kid that had taken, like, geometry that was coming to me in the 8th grade. And I was like, bro, we don't take geometry until the 10th grade. Like, well, you're extra, like, behind here, but you're ahead there, and I don't know how to help you right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that is the other thing that I really appreciate about it. But I think the main thing is, yes, not everyone sees things the same way.
Absolutely.
And my kids hate this saying, but there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Absolutely.
And so I don't care how you get to it.
Right.
Just get
As
there.
long as you get there, because do we all get, down the highway? Like, do we all go from our home to Jeremy's home the same way? No, it doesn't work like that.
Right.
We, someone wants to take back roads and someone wants to take the highway.
Absolutely.
And it just is personal preference. And it's what do their brains see best?
Absolutely.
Right. And it's already challenging because you got different personalities, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different learning styles.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's just like we need to make sure we put our educators in the best position to be able to connect with those kids on every level.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how from your 15 years experience, how many years were you in the classroom teaching, and then how many years have you been an administrator?
So sometimes I don't like to reveal that number. I'll do it for you guys.
Maybe hating.
But no, not necessarily hating. More people are like, so what makes you credible to do what you do now, right? People are always like that number, right?
Yeah.
So I literally only taught 4 years, but I'm hesitant to ever say like how many years, because people are like, so how did you get pegged to do what you're doing now? And I almost like draw a comparison, like people should be in the classroom for a certain amount of years before they,
As opposed to asking you, it must be something special about you.
Yes.
And that's what I would probably think, right?
Right.
But
Yes.
people necessarily don't do that.
Right, because they struggle with self-reflection.
Well, and I'll say, we just recently had a conversation about administrators getting back into the classroom, which I think is so important. But I'll also say my dad has also always said, why don't you go back to school and get your degree, like your master's in what is it? Leadership, so that you can become an administrator. I'm like, that is not what I want to do.
Don't ever say that, because that's where I was.
And really?
We need to talk about that.
Oh.
Yeah. But,
That's where I was.
But maybe you can share with our audience and listeners like the secret sauce. Because when I was at your school, they loved you. You was really like the boss. Like, they loved you. And so there's obviously something special about you where they sit back and said, man, okay, she just finished her year 4. She is doing numbers. Like, she is getting results. Like, everybody loves her. Like, she's got the juice. Like, it's the it factor. It's almost like if we look at the NFL, you've got Drew Brees and you've got Tom Brady. All those has been in the league for 20 years. But now you've got some guys who've been in the league for 2, 3, 4 years, like Deshaun Watson, you know what I'm saying? And Kyler Murray. And some of these other guys are really, really, really good. Some people are just rare. Some people are just really special and talented. Yeah. And so we're really going to keep them in the classroom and stop the progression and growth of the school just because we just feel like we don't want somebody to be. No. You can add value here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so maybe you can talk about some of those things that you did that set yourself apart to put you in that position. And how did you kind of deal with some of the people looking at you like, so what makes you so special? And I know you, so you know what I'm saying, like, or what you can at least share with the people.
Absolutely. So I think for me, it's all about like self-reflection. Teachers have to be self-reflective. And for me, it's all about what do I do? I close my door and I need to make sure these babies get to the next level, right? And that's why I love Next Level, because I feel like Next Level represents that any teacher on the continuum, right? What's your next level, right? That's what
it's
I think about.
Pursuit.
Yeah, you know, the continuous quality improvement of yourself as a teacher, because we teach everything in elementary school. We teach everything. I think that's so important that we need to prepare every day to be on that stage, be that sage on that stage, right? And do what it takes to move those babies from where they are to where they need to be at the end of the year. So that's always been my mantra. Like, what does it take for Kia Henley? How can I be better? What do I need to do today? And I taught kindergarten. That was the last grade level I taught before I became an administrator. And I think it's the best grade level because you see the amount of growth. Kids come to you not reading, and at the end of the year reading. Kids come to you who've only spoken Spanish for the first 4 years of their lives, learning English, and then are reading in English at the end of the school year. You see that progression. So for me, it was more about closing my door and doing what it took, because I owed it to the kids that I serve every single day. And I've only worked in Title I schools for the last 15 years because I think that's where they needed me, right?
Yeah.
I think it's most important. And so the county that I worked in previously, one of the things that becoming an administrator, I was really kind of thinking about was that there's a report card for that county, specific to that county, where they put schools on this continuum of where they are. But are you also giving those schools who may not be at the top of that continuum the same resources that it takes for them to move the same way?
Or better resources.
Right. No, that's not necessarily the case.
Right.
And so how are you expecting this accountability factor when I'm looking at 7% homeless or 5% foster kids, and the schools at the top of that continuum are like 2% free and reduced lunch.
Yeah.
And I'm dealing with 65 free and reduced lunch.
Right.
And then looking at the disparities between what free and reduced lunch means to this school versus this school.
Yeah.
Those are
There's
the
a difference,
factors I
right.
felt like you can't hold principals and administrators accountable, or even teachers, when the resources look different.
Yeah.
But we're still held to the same standard of achieving this.
Right.
And it's only a report card aligned to that district, not the state. Not the state, because CCRPI is what the state looks at, and milestones. But there's another report card that they held you accountable to. And I'm just like, that's not fair.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and we're expected to differentiate within the classroom. We're expected to give accommodations to kids with 504s, IEPs.
Absolutely.
Whether they have some sort of like ESOL, like ELP, learning proficiency plan, whatever it is for them.
Absolutely.
And so we're expected and legally bound to provide certain accommodations for those kids, but we can't do that for those schools?
Exactly.
Question mark?
Exactly. Question mark. Right.
Right.
And then so those schools that are at the top of that tier, they get improvement points every year to hire more teachers and to reduce class sizes. And then they get money attached to that. But for the schools who are at the bottom of that continuum, that doesn't happen.
Right.
Yep.
But they're still held to the same standard.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that really hurt my heart.
Right.
But that wasn't one of the main reasons why I left that district. One of the reasons was being an administrator, the next level is principalship, right? And in the particular district, you have to get into the principalship academy. And they only do it on Saturdays.
Okay.
And so that was like a major, what's the next step for me if I can't do it on Saturdays because I go to church on Saturdays.
Right.
So that kind of was like, okay, then I may have to do something else.
Right.
And that was one of the determining factors for me leaving that district and going to the district that I'm in right now.
So when you crossed over after you knocked out those 4 years and you were already operating at a high level, and they said, okay, we want to bring you in as administrator, was it the same school or did a different school bring you in?
A different school.
Oh,
so
okay.
the principal at my one school said you should get into the leadership academy for assistant principals. I got into it, and then I got hired at a different school.
Okay,
Yeah.
got you. Because I was going to say, how did they take that?
Yeah.
If you were at the same school.
No, not at the same school. No. And I don't think I would want to do that because I had made relationships with those teachers, and having to become an evaluator of them probably would not have been fair for our relationship.
I liked you better when you was a teacher.
Exactly. So I loved leaving there and starting anew.
Fresh.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I'm going to go here.
Absolutely.
What made you, well, because she said we needed to talk about it, so we're going to talk about it real quick.
Right.
So where was that change then if you were like, I'm never going to become an admin, like that's not what I want to do, and then you made that jump. So what was that deciding factor for you?
Definitely my principal at the time. She was just like, because I was all about curriculum and instruction, like I want to write it, I love reading. Reading is my passion. Language arts is my passion. So I was just like, I want to do that, right? My principal was like, you are a leader. I was like, no, I love babies. I don't like adults at all. Like, I totally don't even like teaching with them. I close my door when I don't got to talk to them anymore, right? So she was like, no, you can do it. So the first year she was like, go ahead and sign up for ALP, right? Aspiring Leaders Program. And I was like, because most of the times people said that you don't get in the first time you try, right? So I was expecting not necessarily to get in because it's a small number of people that they take and they have lots of applicants. So I filled out the application reluctantly, and what do you know? They called me and they were like, you got into ALP. I got into it, and then they said, while I was going through ALP, you don't necessarily get your first couple of interviews. You may not get the job. My third interview, I got the job at the school that I was at for the last 8 years before this year.
Wow.
So, and did you go back to school, or was it just bachelor's, master's, or you just went straight bachelor's, crossed over? What
so
was
at the
that
time
like?
I did bachelor's, master's, and educational leadership, like all in sync.
Right.
So right after each other.
Right.
So at that time, I already had my educational leadership degree. So I didn't have to go back to school, but I had to go back for their leadership certificate because my educational leadership degree was in teacher leadership and not ed leadership.
So I like that. So you were right where Tori was. It's like, nope, thanks, I'm good.
Yeah.
And you're like, don't have that mindset, because you had that mindset.
Absolutely.
And your principal was like, you got what it takes.
She's like, you have what it takes. You're a born leader, you're a natural leader.
She's like, but I don't like adults.
Yeah, I said, I don't like adults. Like, I love kids.
Well, and that's how I feel like. I feel like for me, I hate the communication part of things. I do not enjoy like calling parents, and I feel like that's so much of administration is like all the paperwork behind it all, and that's like what I don't love. And so I feel like I would struggle with that. So where do you still find yourself not getting bogged down maybe in some of those things, and still finding the joy in working with kids even from an admin level?
So I am in classrooms every single day.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I visit classrooms every day. So the kids know my name. I know their names. So when I was in the former county, I had about 450 K through 2, and I knew just about all of their names. I'm in classrooms every day, and I'm at collaborative planning every day.
See, that's, I gotta speak to that. State that point. That's rare, right? I remember when I was there at the school speaking, I think you brought me in to do like professional development.
Yes.
And afterwards, I'm telling you, like, I'm not just saying this, like, everybody was gravitating towards you. Like, all the kids, they knew you knew their names. I remember thinking, like, how long does it take to learn all these kids' names? But all the teachers were like gravitated towards you. Can you do this? Anything for you? Like, I just saw like the culture. It was just a different type of energy there. Like, they would have ran through a brick wall for you, but it's because you're so present.
But building relationships is big for me too, right? Like, I can't ask teachers to do something that I won't do myself. That's a big thing for me, right? So I'm in classrooms every day because I have to evaluate you, and I need to know these 10 standards, right? I need to know them just as well as you know them. So I could give you feedback that's specific, that's immediate, and that's purposeful for you. Have you considered, nope, I'm not asking you. I'm not asking you to consider anything, right? I'm just saying, let's talk about what you've done. This is amazing. Like, tell me more about this. What was your end goal? Did you meet the outcome of this learning that you intended, that you set out to do intentionally prior to the learning? That's the kind of conversations I'm having. But also, I'm in collaborative planning, building the plan, so it's exciting to see them come alive when I see it happen in your classroom. So the conversations that we have are rich as a result of me, one, knowing the standard just as much as you do, and being able to break that down for you. Like, I saw that happening. What did you think about that? Oh, did you... I thought that really worked well for you. Keep that up. Like, keep doing what you're doing. So those are the types of relationships I build with teachers every single day. I'm in their classrooms. I know the curriculum. I know the content, but I'm able to give feedback that's very purposeful for what they're doing every day.
So do you feel like, because in my head, I'm like, okay, so where do you find the time then if you're in curriculum meetings every day and if you're in classrooms every day, which I love, where do you find the time for all of the other like paperwork and stuff? But do you feel like you have less of those parent phone calls and the discipline issues because you have a relationship with the kids?
Yes, that, and having a relationship with the parents too. So they kind of trust me, right? So for the most part, I'm not returning phone. I might return 5 phone calls a week. Typically in my last 8 years, five phone calls a week, give or take. Give or take. Because one, I want teachers to be the first point of contact to the parent, right?
Yeah.
Because typically when the parent calls, you're like, have you spoken to Ms. Rodriguez? Because she's the main contact, right?
Yeah.
Because I need to come ask you, what's your take on the situation too?
Yeah.
So I always say to the parent, well, let me talk to her first and then I'll get back to you. Then that's 2 phone calls I have to make, right? If you spoke to the teacher, I could cut down by speaking to the teacher first and then maybe having a conversation together.
Yeah.
And that cuts down on me having several conversations.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I try to build my teachers up to say, hey, you're the first point of contact because I don't want to have 2 conversations about it. I rather be in classrooms than returning phone calls.
Yeah.
Right.
So I had less paper. I really have less paperwork because of those building of relationships with parents, with students, and with teachers.
So tell me your thoughts on this, and I'm glad you said that. That's actually something, shameless plug, right? That we dropped about in our next level parent book. Is I'm
I need
telling,
that.
I got you. Is in the same thing in the teacher's book is I tell
have
the
that.
teachers,
So good.
right? And you order some for your staff.
Absolutely.
We tell the teachers when I train them, I'm like, hey. If you see a problem, child, if you noticing after a few days, okay, Tori is off the chain,
Yes.
right?
Yes. When is
I
she
can only
not?
imagine.
Yes.
When is
I
she
can only
not?
imagine, right? So I'm not gonna call Miss Rodriguez like when things are like just off the chain. I'm gonna call her early. Hey, I've got your daughter Tori. She's such a leader.
Absolutely.
She's very charismatic. She's full of energy.
She always
And
is
she has
answering
such
questions.
a big personality. You try to find those.
And then I say, after I say all that, then I say, and I think she'll do good as the next vice president of the United States.
Yeah.
But in order to get her there,
Right.
here's the things we have to work on right now.
Right.
That's so I say all that,
Yep.
and then I go, I see her becoming the next Kamala Harris.
Right.
But here's what we need to do to kind of curve
Yep,
that.
that's it now. Because if the parents, the first call I get, I got a call from Jules' teacher one time. And you know what I heard? It wasn't nothing that deep, but the first thing I heard was, I'm a bad parent.
Oh.
And I failed. And so I'm like, if you can catch them early and just say, hey, I'm committed
Absolutely.
to helping your child be successful. Do you mind if we keep the lines of communication open?
Absolutely.
I'm
And it
seeing
should
some
never
things.
be that. You should
Right.
you should never feel that way as a parent.
Right. And that's how and I was in my feelings and I'm thinking like, but
Absolutely.
I should know better. Because I'm telling parents when I do like community nights, don't take it personal. But I'm taking it personal.
Absolutely.
So now I know how they feel.
But here's the other thing about that too. I almost blamed some of our education programs, right? We did not learn as becoming educators, the 4 functions of behavior. Right?
Oh.
So when we encounter that first problem child, what we realize is that Piaget and all of those learning theories that we learned about, they're not necessarily applicable in the classroom.
Yeah.
Because no one taught us about applied behavior analysis. No one taught us about the 4 functions of behavior and what to do about that, right? I literally had to figure that out on my own when I encountered that one kid that almost drove me to have my first gray hair. Like, I was just like...
Tell us about that one kid.
Oh, Victor. Victor, I call him Polly Paul.
Polly Paul?
Polly Paul is my
Polly
nickname.
Paul.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness.
Polly Paul. So Victor was that kind of kid. He was very mature for his age, kindergarten kid, right? And so this was about 12 years ago. And at that time, I would change my hair all the time, right? And so one day I came in with curly hair, and he basically looked at me and said, who are you trying to be today? And before I could get it out, he said,
sir, excuse
Beyonce.
me.
Basically, he was telling me I missed the mark. I missed the entire mark. If that was my attempt, you missed the entire mark, Miss Henley. Like, come again.
And this is kindergarten?
Kindergarten. This is Victor. So I was like, okay, this is what Victor. Right. So
Who you trying to?
Right.
What you thought that was?
Who you trying to be?
How
Because
savage.
my dad and I, we don't like your hair this week. Like, basically is what he said to me.
Wow.
The second encounter I had with Victor was I found him humping a little Asian girl under the table when he should have been involved in guided reading centers. That's the day when I thought about losing my job because I was almost about to yank him off the other
I know
girl.
that's
'Cause
right.
I was
Like,
just like,
you
are you
little-
serious? Yeah. So Victor. So then I have to make then I'm thinking I have to make a call home to this parent who's Asian, the little girl, right? How am I going to explain to this Asian parent that a little Mexican boy was humping their kid under the table? Like, where was I? What was I doing? Is the first question, right? And how do I explain that? And then how do I call Victor's parents and tell him that too? So this is when I was like, okay.
All the Title IX.
All the Title IX.
All the Title IX.
This is when I was just like, 4 functions of behavior. I had to go to Google. Like, how can I help Victor? And then I realized there were 4 functions of behavior. Before then, I had no idea. I'd been teaching for 4 years at that point.
Wow.
Had no idea because I hadn't had a kid like that I couldn't handle.
Right.
Yeah.
With the regular sit down, Miss Henley has her eyes on you. Ooh, you're gonna get in trouble. None of that worked.
Yeah.
I had to realize that Victor was engaging in this behavior because he wanted attention.
Yeah.
He was seeking attention. That was a function of his behavior. Wow. So I had to positively reinforce that. And whenever I had an opportunity to positively reinforce him, satiate him with praise.
Yeah. So I have a question to get very real world with this. How do we do it now? How do we do this? How do we, when teachers already feel like they are doing this and just trying to keep their head above water, right? And they feel like they're drowning in all of this digital learning. And when we already feel so disconnected from our kids, which therefore means we're also feeling a little more disconnected from their parents, how do we create that relationship with parents? And how do we find time to make those connections when we already feel like we're behind? How does that work?
So one thing I'd say is I feel like schools need to do a better job, not necessarily teachers, but schools need to do a better job at aligning their school-wide discipline measures, not only with PBIS, but with 4 functions of behavior as well. I think at large, schools need to do a better job of that, just providing some professional learning for teachers with that.
Okay.
I think that would be the first thing I'd probably go to. Like, what does that look like? Because a lot of our teachers are veteran teachers, right? And applied behavior analysis, the research has only been out for like the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So if you've gone through a traditional teacher program prior to that, you have not learned about that. If you're not a special education teacher, you have not learned about that. So I think maybe districts and schools need to do a better job of aligning their school-wide expectations for discipline with PBIS, but also with applied behavior analysis and what that looks like, because it works for everybody. It works for your spouse. Every individual engages in a behavior for only those 4 reasons. And I think if we do a better job at that, then we could support teachers with, okay, this kid is not doing it because they want to get on your last nerves. They're doing it because it may be escape or avoidance. It may be sensory. It may be access to a tangible. You know, what is the function of this kid's behavior, and how do we provide a replacement behavior and teach that in a very profound way so that we could teach them extinction and get them to where they want to be. I think if Jeremy had a teacher who was willing to invest in the 4 functions of behavior when he was in school, I think his experience would have been a lot better.
I went to 3 different schools for 9th grade.
But maybe you did it because this was supposed to come as a fruition of that, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, what the enemy meant for you.
I'm thinking that, so when Oakwood kicked me out, and then I completely failed at Johnson when I was at Huntsville High, those are some of the things and the mindsets that they had to be able to really connect with me and redirect me and affirm me, but still challenge me.
Because based on what I know of you, your function was definitely attention. You were the class clown, right?
Absolutely.
So, definitely, really teaching you some replacement behaviors would have been so amazing during that time. But I don't blame the teachers. They probably did not know.
And most don't. And so when I'm doing the professional development, a lot of times they have like those aha moments. And I'm like, great, now go apply it. Now go apply it. Now you know how to connect with them. That's probably one of the biggest questions I have is, I can't teach teachers how to teach their lesson plan. I cannot tell you how many educators before the pandemic, and I'd be there in person, and they'd be like, so what school you teach at? I'm like, okay, it's 3:30. You tired. You do not want to sit here for this hour presentation. You're looking at who this guy is in T-shirt and jeans. Well, for one, I'm not going to teach you how to teach Pythagorean theory, I'm going to show you how to connect with these kids, those whose fathers not in those lives, or the class clowns, or those who are in gangs, or we're trying to help you to connect with the ones who feel like you don't understand them, or they, you know what I'm saying, they dealing with some stuff broken in their home. I'm going to show you how to connect with their hearts. Because if you can connect with them, you can teach them. You know what I'm saying?
And to be honest, so I have a student teacher that's starting tomorrow.
Wow.
And I have a first year teacher that I'm mentoring as well.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Look at you paying it forward.
Just trying to kill me this year. But I'm really excited because I know that there's a lot that I get to learn and grow from in this process as well.
Absolutely.
But my student teacher is 100% digital. And I was talking to my administrator about it, and we were like, how does this work? Because if you really think about it, Jeremy, the the hard part about teaching isn't creating the lessons.
It's classroom management.
It's classroom management.
Absolutely.
It's all the little things. It's all the paperwork that you have to remember.
Yes.
It's, lining your kids up to go to their specials, their electives,
time.
connections, whatever you want to call it,
Yes.
going to lunch. These days, eating lunch in your classroom, cleaning the desks in between,
Yeah.
trying to be 2 places at once. It's all of that stuff. Creating the lessons is not the hard part of teaching.
It's not. Yeah, because you have a collaborative team that supports that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's classroom management.
Yeah.
Because you could be the smartest person and not be able to
and that's, oh my
disseminate
goodness.
information.
Yes,
Right? I know a
right.
lot-
You remember that one?
You could be the smartest person, right?
Yeah.
I know people who have Mensa scores off the charts
Yeah.
and cannot control a classroom.
Right.
Literally.
Well, and that's kind of the joke. I feel like as teachers, we always say, if you have great classroom management, you could literally teach anything.
the desk.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I could teach a class. I could teach a class full of kindergarten boys
Absolutely.
if I know how to do classroom management
Yes,
well.
yes.
And I think that that's the important thing is, do we know how to do that? Because at the end of the day, the curriculum is what it is, and it's going to get taught.
Yes.
But it's only going to get taught if you can do all the other things, if you can manage your kids
Yep.
within the classroom.
Right.
Yep.
And if you can create those relationships with those kids within the classroom.
Right.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
huge.
Speaking of that, what is the what would you say is one piece of advice that you would give a first year teacher?
I would definitely tell a first year teacher that kids might forget the content, but they never forget how you make them feel.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's like my biggest thing, right?
Preach.
You have to build relationships with kids, right? They are not going to do anything for you unless they know that
Right.
they can trust you.
Yep. Right.
And
Right.
you actually see them for who they are.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing. So you may know everything, but if you don't connect with students on that level,
Yep.
Yeah.
they don't perform for
connection.
you. It's
Yep.
insane, but it's just what it is.
Yep.
So just kind of like, you have to forge your own path too, right? The
Right.
curriculum is there,
Right.
but you have to forge your own path. You can't, your mentor teacher may do it a little different from
Right,
you,
right.
but basically forging your own path and definitely setting professional and personal goals for the first year. Like you may not be able to do it all,
Right.
but just setting goals and trying every day, every week to kind of achieve those goals as you progress throughout the school year.
That's good.
You have 180 days,
Yeah, that's
right?
good.
Just make it great every day.
And that's something that a teacher in year 10, 15, 20 could apply as well.
Absolutely.
Make sure you have those annual goals, professional, personal goals, and then to make sure you don't forget it's not all about the curriculum. It's also about the character.
Yeah, it's
of that
about
kid.
making learning
Yeah.
interesting and
Yeah.
innovative, right? Like, yeah, some days I've had lesson plans and I'm like, you know what?
This is going to go out the window today.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not doing
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I'm just going to read this mentor text and I'll go from here. And I'll
Right.
see how it
Because this is
flows.
what they need
This is what
today.
they need today. I feel it. Like, you could just go into even when I log into virtual classrooms, like right now, I am all about compassion over compliance. Like,
Yeah,
I am big
yes.
on like the curriculum and teaching that, but now I'm just like, when I log into a classroom, I'm just happy kids are there.
Right.
They're showing up
Right.
and they're ready to learn. I'm not even talking about, okay, you didn't turn your lesson plan in at 8:00. I could care less.
Right.
Yeah.
I am just like, I'm just glad you showed up another day
Right,
of virtual
right,
learning.
right.
Like our Google Classrooms,
Right.
it crashed yesterday. Today it's working.
Great.
Connectivity's intermittent, but you showed up again.
Yeah.
I'm just happy you're here.
Right, that's it.
And that's literally
That's
where
it.
I've been for the past 5
Yeah.
weeks.
I was just doing
So
a
grateful
PD
for that, by
a
the
way.
district
Yes.
in Pennsylvania, and they were just like, Jeremy, can you make sure when you do this session with our staff, just make sure that they know if it's choppy, if the internet is off, if it crashes, like it's okay.
Yeah.
Like they finna like be stressed out and break
Yeah.
out in the hives. Like just let them know it's okay.
That's part of my norms when
Yeah.
I do a virtual professional learning. If your internet goes out, just log back in.
Yeah,
You
it's
know, like don't announce it. It's
yeah,
fine. Like
yeah.
I'm not checking your attendance based on how many
Yeah.
minutes you've attended the presentation.
Right.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Mine
And with
crashed
these
I get it.
kids-
4 times during 4th period on
Yes.
Friday. And I was like,
Yes.
the end of a Friday. Are you
Yeah.
kidding?
Yeah.
4 times. It crashed me out.
Yes.
Me.
Right.
And at one point I had
Yes.
like the kids like how they were doing. So it had like someone was red and someone was green. And I was like, oh no.
Right.
Yes.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yes.
Like it was just one of those moments, and there's so much grace that needs to be given in this time,
Absolutely.
whether it's for the parents, whether it's for us, whether it's for the kids. And I think that that's just something that I think a lot of teachers are trying to give themselves.
Right.
But I feel like
a
not
lot of striving
everyone.
for perfection.
Well, I think a lot of other people aren't letting us give ourselves that grace. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like I feel like other people to a certain extent are expecting more perfection out of us.
Right.
And I'm like, I can't sustain perfection.
Right. I think that's why it was
100%.
so refreshing when that district was just like, Doc, well, maybe not make sure her name, but Doc was like, look, make sure they know it's okay.
Yeah.
Just make sure that they know that the first thing is to make sure that they're good.
Absolutely.
Make sure that the kids are emotionally good.
Yep.
Yes.
And if the technology crashes, it's okay.
Yep.
It's okay.
And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But then I've had others that's like, tell the teachers they need to make sure they cut their camera on. Like there are some
Yeah.
that's like,
I
can
think
just...
that's part of, because you also want to know that people are there, right? And you
Right.
also, when you're giving a presentation, especially if I'm paying for Jeremy to come,
Right.
I want to see my teachers' faces.
Right.
And for me, I know like you want to interact with energy.
Absolutely.
When I'm doing a
Absolutely.
presentation, I ask teachers, not at my school necessarily,
Right,
but if
right,
I'm doing
right.
an outside presentation,
Right.
I ask teachers, can you turn on your camera? I want to see their faces. I
Yep.
want
Yeah.
to see, do you connect with what I'm saying?
But that's what we tell
I
our
like
kids
energy.
too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I tell my kids, some of you, all I see is like from here up, like from their eyes up,
Right.
if that much. And I'm like, I don't know what you look like.
I
So
wanna
I
see
can't
your
put it. Yes,
face.
I can't put a name
Right.
to a face and we're 5-6 weeks in. Hold
Right.
up. How do I
Absolutely.
not know
I
what
think
you
those
look like yet?
eyebrows are Jamari. I'm not sure.
Can't say right,
exactly.
This is
I
crazy.
think that window right there. I think that one. I think that's Layla's house
Right,
right, there.
right,
I think
right,
that
right.
ceiling fan. That one's definitely Adrian's.
Right, right, right.
Absolutely.
For real,
Absolutely.
though.
So before we go to rapid fire, right?
Yes.
Tell us, if you could change one thing about the educational system today. If you were called up to the White House, it's like, Kia,
She's like, oh, here we
we've
go.
been seeing your work.
That face.
You are the future of education. Give us one thing we're going to put in the books nationwide. What's that one thing
Can
you
I
would change?
merge my three things into one?
Okay, give it to us.
Do it, girl.
Teacher salaries.
Absolutely.
Teachers don't get paid.
Yeah, right.
I feel like
Right.
parents should have empathy now after the pandemic.
Right.
After saying, oh my gosh, I am not a teacher.
Right.
We do hard work.
Right.
Yeah.
No one
They
can-
were over there telling me they wanted me to be a millionaire. Now
Right. No one
Right.
can walk
Keep that
off of
same
the
energy.
street without a degree and teach the way we do,
Right.
right? We need more money. Teachers
Right.
need more money. Not
Period.
we. Teachers need more money, period, right? That. Lesser standardized testing.
Yes.
Like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Even now in the pandemic, with us having to go through with standardized
Right.
testing, that's I can't imagine, right?
Right.
Telling my teachers, hey, I'm going to give you a testing
Right,
webinar
right.
for an hour next week. What?
Yeah.
Do you care
Right.
about my mental health state?
Right.
No, we just care about milestone scores or whatever,
Right.
right? So less standardized tests, and then no more pay for performance. Because to me, that's putting us back to where that one school district in Georgia was a couple years ago when there was a scandal. That's what you drive teachers to do, right?
Preach.
Yep.
Because here we are
Well,
saying,
I mean, it happened.
I want my teachers to collaborate. Collaboration is the key, right?
Yeah.
For increasing student achievement.
And now you want us
Wonderful.
to go against each other.
And now you want them to go, I'm going to keep my great ideas to myself because I need to move my kids further than Jeremy's
Right,
kids,
right.
further than Tori's kids.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So what am I
exactly
going to do?
what it is.
Right.
At all costs, I'm going to do what
Yep,
it takes if you're going to
yep.
give me more money.
Right,
So
right.
those three things.
Yeah.
More teacher pay, less standardized testing, and definitely no more pay for performance for teachers. Just if you increase their salaries, then you don't
Yeah.
have to give them pay for performance.
Yes.
That's it. That's
and
it.
and let me say,
That's good.
I'll be really blunt, as someone that didn't get that pay,
I can't imagine.
and to know how hard, like I work my butt off,
I
and
can't
I
imagine.
work hours and hours and hours, and to see some of my friends
I can't imagine.
that are phenomenal teachers.
Yes.
My best friend got it.
Yes.
But she teaches chorus.
Yes.
And it was her third year teaching, and I'm on year like 7,
Yes.
and I teach math.
Right.
And I'm like,
We are not the same.
We are not the same.
Hold,
a core
please.
content area.
Hold, please.
Right, right.
You don't take a milestone.
Right.
You know what I
don't.
mean?
Right.
You take a benchmark.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, she's phenomenal. Like LGPE, all those things.
Absolutely.
Like they get like the highest ranking you can get. I'm not saying that she didn't deserve it.
Absolutely.
But that's how it made me feel. It made me
Absolutely.
feel like, wait, what? Why am I not so why am I working my tuchus off
Absolutely.
if I'm not getting this pay for performance?
And then these are conversations that I had to sit with teachers and have.
Right.
Like, why didn't I get it? And I'm just like, well, based on the paper here, when I look at the calculations.
You're like, it's not me.
Yeah.
literally
Based
my
on what
administrator
they
said, I don't know why you didn't get it.
No, I look at the calculation. I just go with I look at the calculations here, and this is why this person, you didn't get it. That's all I say, because it's not me.
Right.
Yeah. And
don't be mad at me.
Right.
Don't slash my tires.
And then also the schools, like I was talking about in the top tier, were that's the
ones
hard
that were
part.
getting.
Those are the ones who had like 80 of their 100 teachers with the pay.
Yes.
And then teachers at my school. So then guess what? Then my school
It's
takes
a
a
revolving
reduction.
door.
My school takes 40 teachers every year leaving, right? So how can I build the capacity of my teachers? How can I sustain the culture, right? Every year when I have 40 teachers leaving my building because they're going to schools where they could teach freely without the accountability stakes because they're going to get that pay and they're not on the stress. But the ones at my school, we're teaching kids who are free and reduced, and we're also teaching kids who need more help. Where would you want to teach if you were a teacher? So that's where I was. And that did not align with my moral compass or my philosophy of education anymore. And that's why I had to hit the road, Jack.
Right. I love it. So let me give you all just this to our listeners and viewers, just this word of inspiration before we go to rapid fire, right? So the system isn't fair, right?
Yeah.
It's jacked up. It's twisted. It's backwards. Sometimes it makes you wonder, like, for one, who are these people that's even setting up these rules?
Absolutely.
Right? Who are these people that's implementing it? Like, who told you this was a good idea?
Right.
We get that, right? But what we're asking you to do is what makes you next level is when you show up every single day and you do the absolute best you can
despite
with
all
what
of
you
it.
have.
Absolutely.
And we believe, I'm just wired like that, right? I believe that a day is going to come when things will change, when things will be different, right? So we have an opportunity now to get out here and vote, to let our voice be heard. We do the best we can with what we have. But we are appealing to every educator listening and watching right now to be phenomenal, to go to that next level and do everything that you can, right? Because these kids need the absolute best from you. So we control the controllables. There are things that we can't control. It sucks. You get in climates like this, environments like this, we can talk, we can vent. But when it's time for that classroom to start, when it's time for your kids to log on, when it's time for them to walk in with that mask on, you give them the absolute best that you can because they deserve it. And we believe eventually a change is going to come.
Absolutely.
Well, and just real quick to kind of close that out and just to say exactly what you said. Shut your door. Teachers, shut your door.
Shut your door.
And do what you do
Shut
best.
your virtual classroom door.
Yes. And know that like what you're doing in your classroom is what's best for your kids.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Stand on that. Stand on that.
Yeah.
Let's go.
All right. Let's do some rapid fire.
Dun, 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 dun.
I'm so excited.
60 seconds.
Wait, no, I'm not ready.
Okay.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes.
All right. Let's go.
All right. Favorite junk food?
Doritos.
Oh. Favorite celebrity crush? Oh, I'm excited about this.
Ooh, I didn't necessarily have one. As a kid, Michael Bivins from New Edition.
Okay.
Hey.
If you could travel back in time, what period would you go to?
Ooh. 1920s.
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
You thinking fashion, weren't
Yeah,
you? I knew it.
Yep.
I knew
That's
it.
exactly
Come
where I
on.
went.
I know you. Yep.
Okay, this one's super cute. Would you rather cuddle with a baby panda or a baby penguin? Oh, she didn't like either of them. Oh,
Penguin. I'll go with penguin.
I was so excited for that one. Oh, okay.
Better have a blanket.
Okay,
Right.
Little Miss Travel. Place you want to travel the most to?
Now I think the Maldives.
Girl, take me with you.
Yep.
Fill in the blank. Beyonce is?
Perfection.
Oh, yes. Favorite Disney princess?
Ooh, Tiana.
Love it. Fashionista. Polka dots or stripes?
Polka dots and stripes. Polka dots.
Oh.
I love it.
Okay, wait. Last question over time.
Absolutely.
Will you dress me one day, please?
Anytime.
Yes.
Anytime.
Yes.
Anytime.
Oh,
Y'all
wait.
got your own thing going on
I
here.
need one more. Okay, favorite
Yeah.
store.
I don't have one. I go to Target and all. Like, so.
Okay.
All of it.
H&M,
I was
Zara.
I was going to say Zara. I feel
H&M,
like you're a Zara kind of gal.
Anywhere. Like,
Okay.
even Walmart. Like, wherever. That's
Straight
dope. I
up.
could get it.
Yeah.
Like, let's go.
And put that with that and this and
Yeah.
that.
I'm all
I
about
love
it.
Okay.
Let's go. Man, Kia, this has been good.
I know.
We'll have to have you back.
Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
We're going to have to get dinner one night.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
You need to come to elementary.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Keep that on.
Cool.
So look, let me say this here. Thank you again, Kia, for what you do.
Sorry.
Tori, you're awesome as always. Thank you all in advance for that 5-star review. You know what I'm saying? Take a moment, right? I know you're busy, but it does make us feel good.
Yeah.
It does. When you take a moment and just write a quick little paragraph.
2 seconds.
Hey, this rocks. You guys are awesome. Just let us know. And if it's somebody you want to hear about, like let us know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if it's something you want us to touch on, like let us know. We are here to add value to you.
Yeah.
And y'all have a great week and hope we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.